A recession is coming, and it might be especially brutal for already struggling Vancouver's real estate market. In today's video, we will break down what this recession could mean for the Vancouver's real estate market and what buyers and sellers must know before it's too late. And you'll be surprised to learn that some people will actually benefit from this recession, and they will find it to be a blessing in disguise. So far, we have seen report after report of economists predicting Canada entering a recession by the end of 2025. Some economists even believe that we are already in a recession. Generally speaking, economic recessions aren't that uncommon. Last time we were in a recession was briefly in 2020. Prior to that, of course, we had the recession in 2008 and 2009. Recession is defined as a temporary period of time when overall economy declines. It is an expected part of business cycle. This period usually includes declines in industrial and agricultural production, trade, incomes, stock markets, consumer spending, and levels of employment. To better understand what we can learn and how we can prepare for the upcoming recession, we can look back at the two previous recessions that we have had in the recent history, the 2020 and the 2008 recessions. The 2020 recession was very brief. For the housing market in Vancouver, it meant significant drop in sales, decline in prices, and lack of investor activity, followed by federal government reducing interest rates quite significantly. That followed by a quick recovery and price increases. We all know the story. We all know the rush of buyers into the market and how quickly the market has recovered. In 2008, the recession lasted a little bit longer, but it wasn't as severe. Generally speaking, it was not nearly as severe as it was in the United States. So we also saw a significant drop in sales. We saw decline in prices. We saw a lack of investor activity, followed by reduction of interest rates by the Bank of Canada, which led to, again, a pretty quick recovery for the real estate market. Generally speaking, by the end of 2009, the real estate prices were sort of back to pre-recession levels. The previous two recessions had clear causes behind them. In 2008, we saw the US housing crisis, which triggered a global recession. In 2020, there was the global pandemic, which once again triggered a brief recession. And now in 2025, the cause behind this recession, most experts agree, is the trade war, the tariff war with the United States, who are, of course, our biggest trading partner. And I think the cause for the recession is very important to keep in mind when we talk about the sort of things we can expect as a fallout from this recession. Before we go further with this video, I just want to warn you that the next chapter of the video will be a lot of speculation. I don't know what's going to happen with the market. You don't know what's going to happen. We can only make educated guesses based on the previous experiences as well as current market conditions. So a few effects that recession clearly has on the real estate market are: number one, significant drop in sales; number two, declining prices; number three, lack of investor activity; and number four, all of that is usually followed by lower interest rates in order to stimulate the economy. And it seems like that's exactly what's happening in the Vancouver real estate market right now. We saw a sharp decline in the real estate activity. We saw a drop in the real estate prices. We also saw the lack of investor activity, and we did have 7 consecutive interest rate cuts. Now, admittedly, the interest rates are not there yet. Most experts believe that the interest rates are not low enough to really stimulate the real estate market, but we are starting to see more and more signs of this sort of recession activity and recession consequences already making its way into the real estate market, and probably making its way into the real estate market for the last few months. Because one of the sort of most important factors that play in the real estate market from the recession is the job and economic uncertainties, which have been playing out over the last few months ever since the trade war was triggered. So the economic recession might start very soon as per definition, where you have a declining GDP. However, I believe that in the real estate market, we already are dealing with the recession. And I believe this recession has a potential to hit Vancouver's real estate market even harder than the previous two for several reasons. Number one, we saw a huge spike in the real estate activity in 2021, 2022, and some parts of 2023, which means a lot of people have bought at the peak. Just think about the friends and family around you and think about how many people have bought within the last 5 years, 4 years or so. I think that number is quite large. And because these people bought at the peak, of course, they're a lot more vulnerable to the real estate prices fluctuation. If people bought 10 years ago, 15 years ago, this recession, the market correction is not such a big deal, even if you need to sell because you have enough equity banked. However, if you bought at the heights and all of a sudden your equity has dropped and you have to sell due to unforeseen circumstances, well, you are in some trouble. The second reason why this recession could hit Vancouver market harder than usual is because of the international buyers ban. Let me explain. When the interest rates are reduced, usually that creates a weaker Canadian dollar, which makes Canadian real estate a lot more attractive for international investors because not only have the prices gone down, but relative to their currency, Canadian currency is cheaper, which makes it even more attractive to buy Canadian real estate. And usually investors are attracted to markets like Toronto and Vancouver. And because at the moment we have an international buyers ban, which I think is actually a good thing, I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying that because there is no international money coming in to sort of boost up the market, we are left alone to deal with this fallout, which means that the recovery might be slower. In 2008, for instance, we still had a lot of international investments coming into Canadian real estate to sort of boost it up. The third reason why this recession could hit Vancouver's market harder than usual is because of reduction in immigration numbers as well as the permanent resident statuses issued. This policy paired with the ban on foreign buyers means that a lot of people are not qualified to buy Canadian real estate because even though they want to live in Canada, stay in Canada, build their life here, before they get their PR, they're not allowed to buy real estate, and the number of PRs issued is shrinking. On top of that, we are reducing the number of new immigrants we're accepting, which means that the number of PRs issued is going to be even lower, and you understand the cycle. Once again, I'm not advocating to lift the foreign buyer ban. No, I'm simply stating that the foreign investments are not coming into Canada at the rates that we've seen before, which helped sort of cushion the blow of the prior recessions. And now let's talk about who is likely to be the most affected by this recession and who is likely to come out on top. So clearly the sellers who are forced to sell and who have bought at the peak are the most affected. They're the ones who are losing the most money. And a lot of times it's not just speculators and investors. A lot of times it's families who are perhaps going through a divorce, or they have to move somewhere else, or they're upsizing, downsizing, etc. Well, in that case, they are losing hard cash because their properties have dropped in value. And speaking of speculators, this is another group that is heavily affected by the recession. Usually speculators are focused on the short term, and when the market drops, they are heavily affected because now it's much harder for them to get their money out, and in a lot of cases, they lose quite a bit of it. The next group of people that is affected significantly are real estate developers, as there is a sharp decline in the real estate activity. Of course, it's much harder for them to sell. They also have their planning done years ahead. So some of these projects they have bought 5, sometimes 10 years ago at those prices, and now they have to sell at the current prices or the future prices, which means that they will be struggling. And I actually did a whole separate video talking about the different types of sellers who are the most affected by the current drop in the real estate activity. The last group of people that is affected are real estate agents and mortgage brokers. I'm not saying this for you to feel bad for us, but that's just what's happening. As you have less transactions, you make less money, less people are buying, less people are selling. Now, who is going to take advantage of this and who's going to benefit? Some of you will not like this, but some investors are going to win big time, especially investors who have been doing it for a long time and who are focusing on the long-term perspectives, because slower market conditions present a lot of good opportunities. The next group of people that can benefit from this recession are buyers. Of course, as you have a decline in real estate activity and drop in prices, you have more opportunities to get better deals on real estate. You can be more aggressive in negotiating, you can have more choices, and you can pick up some great homes at a lower price. On top of that, federal government might reduce interest rates further, which means that you can get better interest rate conditions. Now, I know that the fixed rate market is still high, and actually it looks like the mortgage rates on fixed mortgages is going up because it's tied to the bonds market. instead of it being tied to the overnight lending rate. However, having lower interest rates in the variable market is still advantageous to a lot of buyers because you can take that route if you choose to do so. The last thing I want to briefly talk about is the unpredictable nature of the recessions of the real estate market and economy in general. One of the economists that is talking about the recession and talking about how we are likely to lose 100,000 jobs in the next quarter, which is a very significant job loss, in the same article is also talking about how the Bank of Canada is not reducing interest rates because we are uncertain how long this recession will last. Perhaps we will reach a trade deal with the United States shortly, which means that a lot of this economic uncertainty could go away. And if the Bank of Canada reduces interest rates too sharply, that could create a very busy real estate market because all of a sudden the economic uncertainty almost goes away, and pair with that you have low interest rates, which could create a situation that we have seen in 2021 and 2022 where we got this buying frenzy. So even economists that are quite skeptical on the economy are still sort of talking about this case scenario. So my point here is it's important to stay educated, to know what's going on in the market and try to take advantage of the favorable market conditions as they present themselves. Because as bad as things are right now, bad times don't last forever, just like good times don't last forever. These types of market conditions won't last forever. So try to stay informed, and I'll do my best to keep you informed on this YouTube channel. Please subscribe so you don't miss those videos when they come out in the future. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're a first-time home buyer here in Greater Vancouver, you just don't know how the process works, I have an absolutely free buyer's guide linked in the description below. You don't need to sign up for anything. It's not a sales pitch, it's just sort of a video and a guide to help you understand the timeline and the things involved in buying real estate. From the feedback that I got from you guys, it has been fairly helpful. So once again, the link to that will be in the description below. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye.